Hello everybody, this is Danny from Deep South Homestead. This is porch time today. And true to form, we have rain coming in. I don't know what it is about Tuesdays, but it just seems like every Tuesday. Now last Tuesday we had beautiful weather, which was a freaky thing because 90% of my porch times is done with rain coming in, or either it's going to be rainy. So it's a pretty neat thing anyway. We need the rain though. We got a good rain yesterday morning. We got a good rain last night. So that's nothing that would wash away my crops. I mean, God's been good. He's given us these little 15-minute showers, just waters the ground perfect. You know, not too hot. It's only about 80 to 82 degrees the last couple of days. So that's pretty comparable, you know. And of course, to be honest with you, I've been just busting my tail on the RV, and I've almost got the inside of it. I have everything out of the mobile home or the motor home except over the cab area. I don't have that out yet, but I have all appliances out of it. I have sinks, cabinets. I mean, you know, you'll see in the videos I have all that stuff out. I don't have all the paneling off the walls yet, and I don't have the paneling off the ceilings. I have been patient with that because I'm trying to figure out where the water leaks are at, and we've discovered some major water leaks. There's the reason the back side of the RV is rotted out was coming in around the brake lights. And the problem is, with this particular model of vehicle, they don't make those brake lights anymore. A company bought out the company that made the brake lights, and now they've discontinued them. And the thing about it is the RV has these big holes, 3 of them in a row, like 18 inches across, that's drilled in there for wiring to go through. And they're putting 1 and 2 little tiny wires through a hole that's 1 3/4 inches in diameter, you know. And the lights have no gaskets around them, and water's pouring all into the RV. It's getting all in where the lights is at. So you're going to see some videos coming up of some ways that I've manufactured these lights to make them work again, because I can't find them anymore. And so I have been able to redesign them and remanufacture the old ones and reseal them. And you'll see some videos coming up on that here shortly, I hope. I've gotten all the carpet up out of the flooring in it, so there'll be some videos coming up showing y'all what I've had to go through to get this carpet up. I've never in my life seen anything like this. It was mind-blowing to me the way it was done. So, and I'm into construction, and I mean, I spent most of my life doing construction, and a lot of people ask me, Danny, why are you putting that much effort into this old RV? Well, I guess I need to explain this to y'all, because I've been asked this by numerous people, and when we get on our live streams, it just seems like stuff like that just goes by the wayside. I have an order of things I want to talk about a lot of times, but we get so caught up in just fellowshipping that we forget about a lot of this stuff. But while I'm here today, you got to understand, I spent 26 years building homes and building weekend places and camps on the rivers for people. I built for doctors, I built for lawyers, weekend houses, chalets. I built all these things all over the country. And in 2009, I become disabled, and I was no longer able to get out and build houses and weekend places and stuff like that. And those of you who have experienced what I'm fixing to talk about will know what I'm talking about. When you can no longer do what you love to do, it takes the wind out of you. A person needs to feel that sense of accomplishment in their life. And when you can no longer do your job because of a disability or because of health issues or whatever, it makes you feel a little bit less of a person. And it's taken me several years to overcome that and get beyond it and move on. And when I had the opportunity to purchase this RV, I felt a renewed sense, because this is not a major project for me, what I would call a major project. As far as like me building, I mean, I built $1 million homes and stuff like that, and to me, some houses took a year to build, and that's working, 5 and 6 days a week, 8 and 10 hours a day, and with crews of people. So this little RV, to me, is just what I need to kind of give me that little bit of love back that I used to have for construction, because I've never worked on an RV as far as construction's concerned. I mean, I can't really say that, because I have done some work on some of them before, but I've never gutted one. I've never went through it and completely rebuilt it. I've never rewired one. I've never done any of this kind of stuff. Of course, I'm a licensed electrician, and I don't see where it'll be a problem for me. The only thing that I have a problem with right now is I'm trying to learn solar and how to figure all that, because I really want to use a lot of solar on this. I want it to be generator ready. I want to rewire it. I want to put different circuit panels in it and inverters and stuff. I want to make sure that I just want to create a machine that is something that I created. I want it to be my creation, because there's times I have weird ways of doing things, because I see things completely different than a lot of other people see them, and that was one reason I got to build all these weird houses that I've built, because I've built octagon shaped houses, I've built round houses, I've built dome homes built out of triangle concrete panels. I mean, I guess I've built just about every kind of house there is to build, stick frame, you name it. But this is a little bit different. This is somewhat a challenge for me again, and that gives me a renewed sense inside me. The only thing that I face right now is how I'm going to pay for everything, but that's okay. I'll get along, and I'll do it as I get the money to do it, and it'll give me that love back that I once had for creating something like I used to with homes. I used to go to a piece of property and it was just woods, and 6 to 8 months later, when I walked away, it looked like a masterpiece, and that's what I lived for, and when I got disabled, I couldn't get out and do that, and now the RV has given that back to me, so that I can feel a sense of accomplishment again. And that's all it is for those of you who's been asking me why I'm doing this. I've had a lot of people say, do you want an RV that bad? No, I don't even want an RV. I mean, to be honest with you, but it's just a challenge for me. It gives me back some of the love for construction that I used to have, and I want to modernize it. It's not that when I say modernize, I mean I'd like to have some solar in it. I want to do away with all gas on it, except for some gas bottles on the back. I'm gonna probably mount on a carrier on the back of it, and having a little gas camp stove that we will use off of those bottles. I want to be able to make the inside of it completely modern, where it can be used for solar or generator. I'm lightening it up tremendously. It's not going to have all the heavy stuff in it that it had. We're probably going to do the composting toilet. I mean, I've looked at both ways, and now that I've got it gutted and realized that I'm going to be redesigning the inside of it somewhat, that I think we're going to be able to use the composting toilet. And because I'm using the composting toilet doesn't mean, at that point I don't have to go to an RV station if I'm somewhere and happen to want to take it somewhere. I don't have to try to dump stuff at an RV place all the time. The only water that'll be used in it will be strictly gray water. It'll be bath or down the sink or something, and then there's a tank on there for that, and I can dump that just about anywhere because it's gray water. But the other will be a composting toilet, and I'll probably design something that uses these. They're kind of like these real heavy plied, they call them doggy bags, that you clean up after your animals with, and those can be put in the garbage, and I'll probably go with that route. But that's that's kind of what's going on with that. And I've had so many questions, and I thought I'd take some of Porch time and just answer some of that maybe. We're probably going to be removing some of the windows on it. I'm going to be refiberglassing some places and covering them up just so I can redesign the inside of it. I mean, basically that's it. But but that's where I'm at with that, just to answer those questions for people who have been asking. Now, in the scheme of things on Porch Time, I've been asked a question, and I see this question posted a lot of times. Where do I fit in the scheme of things? How do I fit in here, or how do I fit in there? And one of the things that I see a lot of, y'all have to excuse me. I'm tired, and I'm kind of hurting a little bit, so I move a little bit. I've noticed that there's a lot of people today that I don't know that they realize where they fit in the scheme of things. We're here, or at least I am. I'm trying to build community, and that's my desire. My desire is to bring like-minded people together for a common reason. And we use Deep South Homestead's reason to be two things. One, to be able to teach people how to grow things and survive off of the food that you raise yourself. I mean, that's our goal. And secondly is to glorify Christ. And I feel like that if we can accomplish those two things, then we will have met my personal goals. Now, those two things is never going to make me a Wrangle star. I'm never going to have probably 500,000 subscribers teaching those two things. And I realize that. And I'm okay with that. We will bring in different things occasionally, like the RV, for instance. There's a lot of people out there that talk about living in tiny houses and living in RVs and stuff like that until they can get some land paid for before they can actually start building them a place. They live in travel trailers and fifth wheels and RVs and tiny houses till they build a little bit bigger house. And that's kind of the reason we're doing the RV thing. And we're putting it on Deep South Homestead for that reason. And we feel like that, I told you I mentioned two things that we're basically trying to do on Deep South Homestead. But as time goes on, we will be opening up to other things, like the RV. Now, at some point, the RV will go away. There will be no more videos about building the RV because you can only do so much. Now, we may occasionally do upgrades, or the RV is here, or the RV is there. We've done this with the RVs. This person slept in the RV, or whatever. And put that back on as a video. But the two things I mentioned are basically what Deep South is really all about. And I'm okay with that. The problem is there's so many people out there today that everybody wants to be a chief and nobody wants to be an Indian. You know, you have to understand, not everybody is going to have a big channel. Now, I know that you can strive all you want, but some people will just never have a big channel. And I'm not trying to be cruel, because I'm probably going to be one of those people. I'm probably never going to have a real huge channel. And I'm okay with that. Because, and I'll tell you why, because a lot of it is based on personality. It's based on temperament. Some people are photogenic. Some people are not photogenic. Some people are good in front of a camera. Some people are not good in front of a camera. Some people can explain things very well and make people love what they do. Others can talk all day long and you won't learn a thing. I mean, it's just the way it is. And it all depends on whether your success at what you're doing on YouTube will depend on what your temperament is. Now, am I a choleric? Am I a sanguine? Am I a phlegmatic? Or am I melancholic? Which one of those temperaments is my dominant temperament? Each temperament has its strengths and it has its weaknesses. Each temperament leaves different lines in the face. Each temperament leaves different facial expressions. Those are things that, as a business person, I had to learn, so that when I'm talking to someone, I automatically know if I'm reaching that person, or if they're telling me the truth, if they're lying to me, if they're trying to weasel their way around through something. You know, these are skills that, you know, that some of your big time YouTubers have mastered. And that's why some people will never succeed at having huge channels. And I liken it to what the Bible has to say. Christ, in talking to the disciples, told them, said, "The poor you will have among you always." And Christ wasn't trying to be derogative or anything toward people when he made that comment. Simply what he was trying to say is, some people, it doesn't matter how much money you give them, they will always be poor. Because they just don't know how to handle money. They don't know how to make money increase. They don't understand how money works. They will always live the way they live. And that's the same way with doing YouTube. You know, I have a lot of people who send me messages and stuff, and they say, "Danny, you know, you're only been doing this for a little over a year and you're already at 15,000 subscribers. What's the secret?" You know, there is no secret. That's the bottom line. You have to understand, people will either like you or they won't like you. And granted, you can use different media programs and you can use different media strategies to draw people into your channel. But the bottom line is, you'll have to use clickbait to do it and different things, because some people will just never achieve that goal. And it's not because they're a bad person. It's not because they don't try. It's not because they don't have the means to do it. It's all about your temperament. You know, and let me explain a little bit about that. A choleric temperament is usually someone who's hot-headed. You know, they have a tendency to wear their feelings on their shirt sleeves, and they get mad real quick before they really understand anything about what's going on around them. And they get their feelings hurt and they run off, or they blow up at you and they holler and scream and carry on, and or I'll just show him, you know, kind of attitude. And then you have your sanguines. Your sanguine temperament is a person that they jump feet first into something, and they don't really do any research or anything. They're very enthusiastic. They're very happy people. They don't take any thought about failure or success or anything like that. If it's a new project, they just dive right into it, and they just love it, but they never hardly ever finish what they start, and they never really succeed at what they do. And because it's a short-lived happiness for them. And then you have your melancholic people, who are people who have extreme highs and they have extreme lows. When they're in one of their high moments, they can achieve just about anything that they set their mind to. But once they've achieved it, they fall off the cliff and they hit rock bottom. And it's hard for them to get back up again. Depression can set in. There's lots of things that can happen to them. Anxieties and different things like that. They're usually, to be honest with you, they're usually very successful people, because when they are at their best, they seem to excel. But they get their feelings hurt real quick when someone starts talking about them or something. They can't deal with it like a choleric can. A choleric can brush it off and go on about their business and just be angry and take that anger out on anything that's around them. But then you have those people that are a phlegmatic temperament, and they're quiet. They don't like to be in the limelight. They're very hard workers. They do work behind the scenes where they're very seldom ever noticed. But they're probably one of the most important people that's around, because they're the ones that's actually probably doing all the work. And they don't want any kind of recognition. They don't like being thrown out in the front where they're the center of attention. They're kind of quiet. They're humble people usually. And they're the kind of people that it's very hard to ever get them motivated. But once you get them motivated, they can accomplish a lot at their own pace. They're not very good at following someone else's pace. So you see, it depends on which one of those temperaments you have strengths and weaknesses in. You have to understand, we have 2 parents and 4 grandparents. And as a result, we can have qualities of all 4 of those basic temperaments. You can have traits of all of them in your personality, in your character. But there will always be one that seems to dominate. And I would encourage you as an individual to figure out which one of them it is for you that seems to be the one that dominates you. Because unlike what most people say, that you cannot change your temperaments, that I've learned in life is not true. Because when Christ gets a hold of someone's life, then they have the ability to achieve things that they once could not have achieved. Because many times Christ gives the increase in a person's life if they're faithful at what they're doing, and they will increase. Not to say it happens every time, but there are instances where that will happen. One good instance would be the Apostle Paul in the Bible, who was let's just go ahead and say it like it is, he was a murderer. He went around murdering Christians. That was his job. And in his mind, he thought that he was doing God's will. But when he was struck down on the road to Damascus, it wasn't until after that he realized that he had to become someone completely different. Because you see, the Apostle Paul was a lot like the Apostle Peter was. Peter was a strong choleric temperament. He was very hot-headed. And you say, well, how do you know this? Well, we have an instance where his true personality come out many times. Once when they come after Christ to take him to crucify him, Peter immediately drew his sword out and slapped the ear off of one of the men there. And of course we know that Christ put the ear back on the guy because he knew if he did not, that the attention would have been taken away from Christ and would have been put on Peter, and Peter would have been put on trial and not Christ, and therefore the whole plan of salvation would have been averted. And Christ knew that. That was Satan's attempt through Peter's anger to try to stop the crucifixion. And then we have other instances where Peter, when he was asked, do you know who this man is at the crucifixion? And he denied him 3 times. He slanderous, cursing words and stuff. And we see that his temperament came out that way. And it shows us that he had a hot temper and that he had a choleric temperament. But people that have a choleric temperament are often people who usually succeed in life. They usually are able to run businesses. They have that ability to deal with problems when they come up and walk away from them. And they don't care about the outcome of the person that they hurt. And then you'd have someone who I would call would be just the opposite. Would be someone like Abraham in the Bible. Abraham was a phlegmatic temperament. He was laid back. He was to himself. He didn't like to be out in the limelight. He did everything behind the scenes. He was just one of those kind of people that was easygoing. We have those instances and people go, well, how do you know that? Well, we see where the Pharaoh wanted his wife, and he told his wife, said, just tell him that you're my sister, and because if you don't, they'll kill me and they'll take you to be a wife and all this kind of stuff. And so we see that he was very conniving, because people that are phlegmatic are usually conniving. And so we see that he used those type temperaments. He wanted to be in the background. He didn't want to just be out front. If he'd had a choleric temperament, he would have jumped up and said, yeah, this is my wife. What you going to do about it? But we see that he didn't have that personality. So keeping these things in mind that we're talking about here, look at your YouTube channel and try to determine which temperament am I. Because each temperament has its strengths, and each one of them have their weaknesses. Determine which temperament you are. If you have to, get you some literature on the 4 basic temperaments. Go online, read about them. I encourage you to get a book. There are several books out there on the basic temperaments of life. And I would encourage you to get one, read it, kind of dissect yourself a little bit and see which category you fit into. And it might answer a lot of your questions, because you see, it answered a lot of my questions as to who I was growing up. And at a very young age, I determined who I was, what I was going to do, where my strengths was at, where my weaknesses were at. And because I knew my weaknesses, because of my temperament, I was able to build on my weaknesses and actually turn some of them into strengths. So that's the way you build a YouTube channel. That's the way you succeed in life. That's the way you figure out where you fit in life. Because some people have no social skills, and it irritates the heck out of them. They don't understand why, and it's basically just simply because of your temperament. If you're a phlegmatic temperament, you probably don't have good social skills. Because but if you're a sanguine, you're probably the life of the party, and you enjoy everything. You're the class clown. And some people wonder, why is he this way or why is she that way? Well, it depends on your temperament. Like I said, you have 2 parents and you have 4 grandparents. Now, each parent one could have been a choleric and the other one could have been a melancholic. And bless your heart, because you'll be one screwed up person. You'll be a hot-headed, depressed individual usually. So you have to look at it, and we have 4 grandparents, and each grandparent could have been a different temperament. So you have to figure out where you fit in the scheme of things in life. And once you learn about temperaments, and I don't usually go into these kind of things with people because I can get very deep with humanity. I can get very deep with life in general, and I can go into the way the mind works and how things work in the, how to alter things, how to carry a conversation and make the other person think that they're the one leading the conversation when you're the one actually leading the conversation. You just make them think they are. These are things that you will learn once you learn your temperament. You will learn when you're sitting and talking to someone, you can immediately within the first few minutes analyze that individual, and you will know a lot about that person pretty quick. Like I said, I don't usually go out and just tell people these things, but there's a lot of stuff going on out there in YouTube world, and there's going to be a lot of people that's going to get hurt, and I don't like that. That's not who I am. I try to love everybody equally across the board, because what I do is just what I explained to you. I look at each individual, and I immediately, within a matter of minutes, know their temperament, because I have worked my whole life on building this quality in my life of being able to do that. And when I see that, and even though they react a certain way, I immediately go, oh, they're this temperament. That means that their next move will be this, or I can expect this down the road. Or some people always ask me, how do you know what you know? It's not that I know anything, y'all. It's that life is very predictable based on temperaments. And usually it's not wrong. There's occasions where it might be wrong, but it's not usually wrong. So I've been going on long enough today. This is just something that's been on my heart. I've been wanting to talk to y'all about it. I just hadn't known how to talk to you about it. And I just want you to understand that don't look down on people in life because they're a certain way. It might be their temperament. They may have no control over what's going on in their life. It's how their mind is wired, and it's how they work as an individual. And keep that in mind so that you don't ruin friendships and burn bridges that you can't cross again. So with that, I'm going to say thank y'all for watching. Thank you for being a part of Deep South Homestead.